The wail tore through the room, a raw, primal sound of heartbreak. Sarah just collapsed onto the rug, and Peter, ever the protector, rushed to catch her. "Look at John and Kara. A look so sharp it could cut glass." "I found the emails on the server, John." Peter's voice was low, dangerous. "You were planning to liquidate Henry's assets, to leave next week. Both of you." The silence that followed was deafening, heavier than the storm raging outside. Henry's world tilted on its axis. He looked at Kara, the woman he had placed on a pedestal, the woman he thought was his future. Her face, usually so open and loving, was a mask of guilt. Then his gaze shifted to John, his brother. The brother he had pulled from the depths of bankruptcy, addiction, and despair, time and time again. The brother he loved unconditionally. "You didn't just break my heart," Henry's voice cracked, the first tear finally breaking free, hot and fast down his cheek. "You stole my life. You made my memories a lie. Every shared laugh, every late-night talk, every promise whispered in the dark. Was it all a performance? A long con?" The thought was a physical blow, knocking the air from his lungs. Now John's jaw was a hard line, his usual arrogance finally crumbling under the immense weight of his brother's pain. "I never wanted to hurt you, Henry." It was a weak defense, a pathetic attempt at justification. "You didn't want to get caught," Henry corrected him, his voice flat, devoid of the warmth it once held for his brother. The distinction was crucial. It wasn't about love or loyalty. It was about a failed plan. He walked over to Sarah, his own grief momentarily forgotten as he saw hers. He gently pulled her up from the floor, away from the wreckage of their lives, away from the people who had caused it. He then turned to Gennett, his voice a command. "Get them out. If they are still here in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police for the embezzlement Peter found." The word embezzlement hung in the air, cold and final. Henry Kara started, her voice pleading, but it was too late for pleas. "Out." Henry's roar was thunderous, echoing off the high ceilings, rattling the very glass in the windows. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated rage and pain, a sound born from the deepest betrayal imaginable. John and Kara scrambled, grabbing their coats and bags, their movements clumsy and panicked. They didn't look back as they fled into the storm, the pouring rain a fitting backdrop to the chaos they had created. They were gone, leaving behind a silence filled with the ghosts of what used to be. The four of them who remained stood in the ruins of the evening. The party was over. Dedit, ever practical, poured a fresh drink, her hand remarkably steady. But her eyes held a deep sadness for the family she had watched grow and now shatter. Peter held a sobbing Sarah, murmuring quiet reassurances, his own anger simmering just beneath the surface. Henry walked to the massive window, the one that overlooked the sprawling gardens. He watched the red taillights of his brother's car disappear into the black, rain-swept night. He pressed his forehead against the cold glass, the chill seeping into his skin. But it couldn't touch the inferno of emotions burning within him. He was wealthier than he had ever been. His house, the business, the assets Peter had saved, it was all his. But as he stood there, surrounded by the few people who hadn't betrayed him, he had never felt so poor, so utterly destitute. The most valuable thing he had, his trust, had been stolen and shattered into a million pieces. The dark reflection of the window, a stranger stared back at him. A man with hard eyes, a solitary figure standing alone against the storm. He didn't recognize this man, but he knew one thing for certain. This man was, for the first time in a very long time, completely and utterly awake. The illusion was gone. And now the real story begins. What do you think happens next? Does Henry rebuild, or does he seek revenge? Let me know in the comments below. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because you won't want to miss what comes next. Thanks for watching.